It's going live. Just okay, sir. Hello, good evening, all students, and a warm welcome to all of you. And good evening, Krishna Kumar, sir. A warm welcome to you too, sir.
Good evening, Janvi. Good evening, all. I hope the
So,
audio and video is pretty clear, right?
yes, sir.
Great, great. Thank you so much. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to be trying to understand the correspondence at work, which is one of the crucial aspects of employability. And then after that, in fact, the request was to kind of spend more time on resume writing, how to build resume, how to use the right kind of uh, things in the resume. So that's what we're going to be discussing in the next 1 hour. And today, since it's the final episode, we're going to be having some more time spent, say like 30 minutes on Q&A, because I think my experience has been like pretty encouraging from you people that we have a lot of questions, so we will deal with those questions in the final 30 minutes. So it's going to be like this: next 2 hours, first 30 minutes on correspondence at work, then 1 hour for resume writing, and then 30 minutes on Q&A, right? I hope it is fine. So if it's fine, and then if you have any questions in between, please don't forget to write on the Q&A session. We have the Q&A here. The questions, I can read the questions whenever you type it. Yeah. The voice is okay. I mean, someone was saying the voice is not audible. Is it okay now?
Sir, it's okay. We can hear.
It's clear, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Great, great. Thank you so much. So I hope you had many sessions on, soft skills, employability, and it's going to be like fun to learn how these are going to be like useful for you at the workplace, right? Interestingly, workplaces are going to be very, very remote and sometimes hybrid. I mean, in some cases, like in manufacturing and all those hard industries, it could be sometimes, going to office and things like that. So, I mean, the world is going in a very interesting way. So, communication, correspondence at work is going to be the most important aspect of what determines your career growth, what determines you enjoying the work, everything. So there are some basic principles which you should keep in mind when it comes to correspondence at work, because I know that you've been corresponding mostly for personal, right? You've been communicating to your people. These things are happening every day, right? But when it comes to official communications, people are not really sure what to do. So here are examples where people who are naturally very communicative also sometimes fail in office communication because of certain reasons. So that's exactly the reasons we want to discuss today, so that we don't have to do their mistakes, right? So one thing which I want to share today is like there is always something called the do's and don'ts for everything, right? If you do this, you will be more successful, and if you don't do this, you can avoid failures, kind of a thing. But I think anything to start with, I think the first thing which we should consciously learn should be to understand what we shouldn't be doing, right? Imagine you go to a new country, and the first thing which you should think about is what are the things which get punishment here, so that you don't do it, right? What are the things which are not appreciated here, so that you don't think about doing it, right? Um, Even before, what are the things which will get you success? Because sometimes by mistake, you might be an intelligent person, you might be a smart person, you might be a very hardworking, determined, a very passionate kind of a person, but you may have the probability of sometimes doing some mistakes. Sometimes you overlook things, sometimes there is a blind spot, sometimes you were too tired, sometimes you didn't get a sleep, so mistakes can happen. So this is exactly the reason we want to make sure that um, before doing anything, let's learn what you shouldn't be doing, so that we are much better in the game. So there is a famous saying by Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is one of the most reputed, most legendary investors in the US. You would have heard about Warren Buffett. So Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, run Berkshire Hathaway. And one of the things which Charlie Munger says is that it's not the brilliant things which actually help you to be successful. It is to avoid stupidity, consistently is also important, right? Because most of the people think that success is all about doing one big thing, right? Doing one brilliant thing. But it's also about consistently not doing stupid things. So it's exactly something which I believe in when it comes to correspondence at work, or doing communication with people, right? So the first principle which we should remember when it comes to correspondence at work, I mean, when we correspond at work, it could be through, say, for example, an email, it could be a WhatsApp message to superiors, or it could be a group message, which you put in on your Slack at work. It could be a group email, right? An email which is copied to many people. It could be a written letter which you got from a bank, which you need to reply to. It could be a notice, it could be a memo, it could be a circular, it could be something which is a matter of importance. It could be a tax circular. So it could be anything, right? How do you reply to this? How do you respond to this is the key thing, right? So first of all, when we try to correspond at work, it's important to be very clear about what we're doing, right? First, the thing which we need to avoid is to avoid emotional, impulsive kind of responses, right? So most of the time, we are all emotional beings, right? Human beings are emotional beings, and our responses can also be emotional when we are not aware about it, when we don't regulate it, right? So the biggest mistake which most of the professionals, even the professionals, even the great professionals do, is that they become emotional when it comes to responding to things, right? Which will definitely not going to help you. It will also put you in a bad light, when it comes to a professional work environment, right? You would have worked on the project a lot, and finally you're getting an email which is not acknowledging the fact that you worked on a project. It pains you. You would have put your days and nights into it. You would have been thinking about it hundreds and hundreds of hours, but finally you get an email like that, and how do you respond to that? So that's where we need to have the emotional regulation to respond, right? So people who are able to emotionally regulate are the people who become more successful, more professional, right? So coming to the point of clarity, the clarity is about getting emotional regulation and looking at that particular communication in its rational sense, so that we can respond to it much better, much rationally, right? Not emotionally, but rationally. When you say clarity, it's about how important it is to think clearly about that situation also, because most of the time what happens is, if we are not able to think clearly about that particular situation, we may end up responding in a very emotional manner, right? So it's important to detach yourself from the particular situation and then start thinking like, okay, if I'm not part of this, how would I be responding to this, right? If I am not if I have not put all my energy into it, how would I be responding to it? So there is something called the sunk cost fallacy, wherein whatever project which you've already put in a lot of time, energy, and efforts, you start feeling emotionally attached to it, right? Even though the project is not going to help you, you would start, feeling that emotional attachment, and that is called the sunk cost fallacy. It's like one of the cognitive biases, which actually is not a great thing, because most of the time we end up wasting more time in the projects which are not going to give you more returns, right? Sometimes it's just an emotional project. It's not going to get you any returns. So this is where even communication, we need to look at these biases in us. Like communication is all about beating the biases and navigating for better future, right? We all are biased people. We have cognitive biases. Human biases are like more than 100 biases. If you go and Google and about the cognitive biases, you would end up reading more than 100 biases, human biases. One of it is what I discussed with the sunk cost fallacy, right? So communication is all about navigating those human biases, and then we regulating our emotions and responding in a way that it's going to be constructive than destructive for you. So any communication ultimately should be constructive for you. It should help you. It should put you in an advantageous position. It should be able to help you negotiate better. It should be an assertive thing. It should be clear. This is what we're going to be discussing. So first one is the clarity. So for clarity, is also important to use simple, precise, clear language. Most of the time, just to impress someone, we will use some big jargons and big time words. Ultimately, that is not clarity. It is just like you're trying to kind of dominate the situation. Instead of that, always make sure that the communication is clear and helpful. Right? When it is clear, it is helpful for others. Right? So avoid jargon. Even if you are using jargon, make sure that you're explaining that to them. Right? For example, if you're using a particular word in financial accounting, and the person you feel that the other person probably might not know, it's always good to explain what you mean about that word, right? Wherever possible, use action words. So when it's a verb, right? Verbs are always good because people understand, what you're talking about. Instead of saying execute, you can say do, right? Do is a very simple word, right? Can we do it, right? Instead of saying that, can we execute at the earliest, right? It's like it looks very complicated and might look very formal also. Instead, if you can say, can we do it, right? That makes the whole communication much clearer, much simple, much friendly, and much concise in that way. So it's always good to use action words, verbs which are like which can ensure clarity. The second principle, this first principle is about clarity. Okay, remember this is very, very important. If it is not clear to the other person, then there is a problem with our communication, with our correspondence, right? If they have to call you and then check with you, hey, what did you mean by that on the email? Then our communication has failed in the process, right? Ultimately it should be self-explanatory. When you send an email, it shouldn't be like, they should call you back and say, what was the email about, right? Then the purpose of the email is lost. So make sure that we make the whole communication pretty clear, and that's the principle number one. Principle number two is the conciseness of what we do. Now, when I say conciseness, many people write long emails, right? In the social media world, we don't have the time to, read long emails. We want to make it as crisp because the competition is, better content out there. Instead of reading your mail, somebody can go and read something else, right? So you are actually competing. Your email is competing with, something else there. So always think that your email is not a priority there. Your email is one among the many things which they're reading. So make it concise. Make it easy to read, make it brief, right? Summarize it. Don't put long sentences or long paragraphs or long emails. What do you want? Put it out there straight, right? Now avoid verbosity. So when you start using certain words, you feel like using those words. Like it's fun and you feel good about using those words. So that's what you call the verbosity. So you should try to avoid that verbosity as well. So conciseness is the second thing. That means summarize whatever you want to share with them, respect their time, and your communication is competing with other interesting content. Remember this, always remember our piece of content, the piece of communication which you've sent to them. If we need to get their attention, it need to be simple and clear and very, very concise. Right? The third thing, very important for you guys, because since you are in the financial management accounting domain, whatever you write should be correct. You know, when I say correct, the figures, the factual accuracy should be very, very high, right? I mean, it should not be high, it should be 100% high. So correctness is very important, because keep the language as simple as possible for easy comprehension, and also most importantly, make sure that the numbers or the percentages or the ratios or any kind of figures you put out there, be it an email, be it an Excel sheet, be it a Tableau chart, or any kind of communication, or even for that matter, if your superior is asking for a quick figure from you from WhatsApp, make sure that you are verifying that before you send your click button, right? So correctness will actually give you, otherwise we'll have to send an incorrect figure, and then after 5 minutes, we have to say, oops, ignore that email, please send this. I mean, it creates a lot of confusion, because sometimes by the time you send the message, your superior would have sent it to somebody else. So it's difficult to track that, and it's always good to verify the figures and the numbers and possibly whatever you're writing before you click the send button, right? So correctness is very important. Especially in your career, is going to be a crucial thing, because in marketing careers or any other careers, you can tell a story or whatever, you can change it, you can make a draft of it, do whatever. But in financial accounting, management accounting, cost accounting kind of a domain, numbers really matter, and even the smallest change in the numbers really matter, right? Because that might be huge. Like instead of saying 1.1. You say 1.2, it's like 0.1% might be a big thing as far as the volume is concerned, right? So when they try to calculate 1.1 and 1.2, the difference between the, both would be really great in terms of number of units or the sales volume or whatever. So it's all about understanding the seriousness of, or the stake in which you're talking about. The stakes are very high, right? When you're working with a medium-sized organization, or a large stake organization, the communication which you do, the stakes are really, really high. The stakes are like embarrassment. Sometimes when the number is not right, it will end up in embarrassment. If the numbers are not right, you end up making a wrong impression. There are so many things. I mean, it's always good to be proactive than reactive in these kind of situations, right? So these are all things which will make you stand out from the rest of the people who are careless, right? So professional, being a professional means these things, right? So talking about third thing, correctness. Now the fourth thing is the coherence. Like how is it related to one or to other? So sometimes when people talk, there won't be any coherence. Like they can talk from one thing to other, and there is no structure. It is confusing, right? Instead of that, when you want to have coherence, make sure that you are writing the email or communicating or preparing a report for that matter, or even for that matter on a call, right? So correspondence is not just about email, it's also about the call, it's about the meeting, the video meeting which you're attending, it's also about some quick information which is supposed to give on WhatsApp, or it could be on a company group channel, right? Anything for that matter requires coherence. So one thing which you say should logically flow to the next, and then to the next, and then conclude it, right? Instead of one thing which you say is going here and then here and here and here, right? That is not coherence, right? Coherence means you go from here, 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 and fourth point is conclusion. So people pretty much understand what you're talking about. I hope you got what coherence is, right? Logical flow of information, right? Not random. Yeah. The other one, which is very, very important, is like when we deal with many different people, and especially when we deal with people in an area where you are working remotely, it's important to have a lot of consideration for others, right? When you want to send a message to someone, if you're saying that, can you send that, right? You can say, can you send that? Instead, it would be good if you can write a little bit more considerate, right? Would you be able to send it in another 2 hours, right? So that makes more sense because the other person knows that you need it in 2 hours and you're making a request, right? And that request is more considerate, and you can say like, would you be able to send that in 2 hours? I hope it is not a botheration for you. So that makes it a little bit more soft, right? The whole communication has become more softer, and the other person would feel, oh, this person is humble, let me help them, right? So humility in the tone in which you write, consideration, empathy, all these things are very, very important at the correspondence at work. So consideration is the key thing, right? Be it an email also, instead of saying that this report is full of errors, you can always say that, would you be able to recheck on the report before we share it across with the superiors, just in case, so the other person will understand, okay, rechecking with the superiors, because once it is sent to the superiors, it's going to be difficult. Just in case means just to make sure that you are doing it right. So instead of saying this is full of errors, it's so rude, and the other person would feel very bad about it. Make sure that, see, sometimes we feel bad when the other person is inefficient, right? And we feel like saying something to them, but that won't really help, right? What can help is the empathy. What can help is the consideration to the other person, and to reframe the same question to more empathetic, more considerate, more softer version of asking the same thing, right? So I hope you will definitely make some effort, because to become considerate, you have to take more efforts. To be rude, you don't have to take any other efforts, right? You just can be what you are, like, and ask some question. You can appear to be rude. And you feel good about being rude because you felt that the other person was inefficient, right? But that's not the way it works. Good leaders always try to make the communication softer, considerate, empathetic, because only then the other person will take more efforts to be more careful and give you the best report ever, right? So that conviction and that trust is important in the communication. So think always from the receiver's point of view. Is it talking about you? Is it talking about? We also always should talk about the other person, right? Rather than I want it. Would you be able to send it? In 2 hours, because the management is waiting. That means there is a sense of urgency. We are saying that we need it in 2 hours. Would you be able to send it? Means also it's more considerate. We can say that sorry for the last minute notice. That also would make him feel better, because we already said something which is nice to him, right? So making the communication softer, considerate, empathetic, and a little bit human, right, is the whole idea behind it. The other thing is the completeness. So most of the times when you get a reply, or when you send a reply to someone, and I mean, whatever they wanted to know from us, we would have given only 50% of it. Or sometimes we would not have even given the exact answer, we would not have even thought of giving, or probably understood the question. So it's important to know how complete your answers are, which will help you to figure out the effectiveness of what you do, right? So completeness is important, right? So in terms of completeness, we'll make sure that you are communicating. If you wanted to communicate 4 things, and in your email you've only mentioned 2 things, that means that it's not complete, right? So why we are not able to mostly. So I'll share with you one thing, right? Mostly people are in a hurry when they write emails, because the moment an email comes and you feel that the email requires an immediate response, and you try to write an email, what happens is you are writing in panic. And when you write in panic, sometimes you lose clarity, you lose conciseness, you lose sometimes coherence, you lose all those things you're talking about here, you lose the completeness as well. So it requires a little bit of emotional control and regulation while you reply to important emails. The reason why we should be drafting it before we sending it. We can't be, you know, uh, write and send, right? We should be able to write a draft, read it again, and see if you're able to understand yourself. The best check of an email is that once you write it, go through that email again and see whether you are able to understand, whether you find it good, whether you find it complete, whether you find it clear, concise, coherent, and that would be a good test of any good email, right? The courtesy is very important. Like just like I said, whenever we meet someone, whenever and it's important to say good morning in a very nice manner. I mean, it might look sometimes or sound sometimes awkward, but it's okay. But that good morning will definitely melt a lot of ice there. So whenever there are two people meeting, there is a potential for friction because people have resistance to each other, right? So how do you melt that resistance? The best way to melt that resistance is to smile, is to be nice, is to be kind, is to ask some informal questions, and then try to start the conversation. Even if it is a strong email which you want to share with them, tell them, hey, how are you doing? Hope you're doing fine. And this is the scenario in which I'm going to write an email to you. That will make that relationship more important because ultimately, when two people are communicating, always try to protect the relationship. Because if you feel that you write this email and the relationship is lost, then the value of whatever you do is lost, right? So keep the relationship intact, but at the same time, deal with the problem. So two things are very important. When you write business emails or call people or meetings or anything, ensure relationship is protected, but the problem is dealt with, right? So courtesy is definitely because most of the people feel that asking something officially, very strongly, assertively is some big deal. No, it is not going to help you because people want to be treated well, right? Always, sometimes even now, and I work with a lot of the US clients, and I mean, one of the things which I've noticed with them is that even if they are unhappy with us, even if they are like little impatient with us, uh, they always exchange pleasantries. They would always say, how are you doing, what's happening, and is it good morning to you, is good evening to you. I mean, those kind of exchanges in the first 1 minute will be part of every call, even if those calls are panic calls, even if those calls are like calls to be like dealt with, problems to be dealt with. So yeah, so these are the fundamental things which I want to share with you. Writing an effective email is one of the biggest skill, right? Which, I mean, I'm sure that probably you may not agree with me right now, but take it from me, when you start being part of a team and when you start working somewhere, email writing skills will take you to the top-notch 10% of the people, right? Because if there are 100 people, 100 professionals in anywhere, look at the total population of professionals, only 10% of the people can write good emails. Imagine you're taking efforts to write good emails, and that effort will definitely help you to become, part of the top 10% league, right? That's an opportunity. So don't think that accounting, management accounting can save you. Definitely, that is a domain knowledge which you need to acquire, to be a cost accountant. But writing good emails, email etiquette is going to take you to the next level of growth, right? So that's what I want to share with you in the first 30 minutes. Um, so there are enough of content out there which you can possibly check and find out to see how you can write good emails. Like these principles are all applying to the emails as well. Do not write emails on capital letters, which I see. I mean, most of you, even now, I can see many people doing that big mistake of writing, it's funny, I mean, to see that, and fancy phones and colors and all those things. No, email should be just plain Arial or Times New Roman. That's it, or maybe some of the phones which are available in Gmail, right? Response to it, overuse of exclamation or question marks. Never use that, and never try to use reply all every time. Sometimes you got an email, you don't have to reply to everyone unless they have to know about it, unless they should be kept in loop. So this kind of etiquette needs to be kept, in mind whenever we, work with people. Especially the personal touch in business communication is becoming so important right now nowadays because we are not meeting every day. If it used to be in a direct meeting, you can show your sincerity, you can show your happiness, you can show your confidence, conviction, trust, and humility and all right across the table. But right now, what's happening is we are all behind screens, and they can possibly feel that we are arrogant. They can possibly feel that we are impatient, right? So don't allow the other person to feel bad about us, because if they feel more bad about us, that is not going to help us at work. That's very simple as that, right? So that is about a quick module on the correspondence at work. I encourage each one of you to go and find out interesting email formats in which people communicate, and learn more about it in the coming days, for work. So, having said that, we will move to resume writing. If you have any specific questions on correspondence at work, we will take it now, and then we can move to resume writing. You can put the questions on the Q&A, and I'll pick up questions and answer to that. Is it okay?
Yeah, students, please post your questions regarding correspondence at work in the Q&A section.
Yeah, interesting questions. Let me read some of it. Unknowingly, I have this habit of people pleasing, which in turn gives me anxiety, and I am under this constant thought whether they like me or not. Yeah. So I get your question clearly. See, at any point in time in our career, we always feel that we should impress everyone, we should please others, for two things. One is, of course, our constant need to be liked. The second is to grow, in that team, because only likable people grow, right? That's the impression which we have. But having said that, I would like to share with you that likability is one of the most important aspects of building a career. But at the same time, there is something called assertiveness, because the moment you are extremely likable and you are not assertive, that is going to damage your career as well. So it is a combination of assertiveness and likability. So assertiveness is not about arrogance or saying no to everything. It is about being clear about what you want and being clear about your value systems. So this will help you to clearly take decisions whenever you get a request, whenever somebody asks you to do something. We know what to answer. We don't have to find out answers at that point in time because our mind already has set everything, right? So assertiveness and likability is a great combination, but likability alone will not help. I hope I answered the question. Yeah. PPT is not visible. I'm not using any PPT today. No, that is why it's not visible. Yeah. So, yeah, suppose another question. Suppose superiors ask anything on WhatsApp, which we don't know or which we are unable to understand. What he's asking? Then how should we reply to that? Right. So definitely, if you don't understand the question, you should clarify it with him. But make sure that when we ask the question, they shouldn't feel that we are putting up an excuse, because there is a chance that they might feel that we are just asking a question to, buy more time. So instead, we can always say, like, from that particular statement which you made, which part you didn't understand. Or you can say one thing: hey, is this what you're looking for? That's the second question which you can ask. One is, of course, uh, repeating what they said and asking for, is this what you're looking for, right? That would help to clarify his exact request, right? And also set a small context in which, probably how much time will you take to get that. You don't have to panic and run around. You can say, maybe I will take 1 hour. So if he's sending by 4, you can say, like, you can expect my thing in 1 hour. So there is an expectation set. And also you asked a specific question back, or to be on the same page, right? This is what people say. Okay, let's be on the same page, because if I'm not on the same page with you, I'll not be able to help you, right? So let's be on the same page. Is this what you're looking for? So if he says yes, you can definitely say, no problem, I got it. You'll get it in next 1 hour, right? So make it very clear, crisp, and at the same time professional. Yeah. So Jayant is asking ways to improve our grammar. The only way to kind of be clear about a grammar is to use simple sentences, right? Whenever you feel that the sentences are long and the constructions are becoming bigger, there are chances that your grammar may go for a toss. So it's important to have using simple, clear sentences so that the grammar is intact, right? So always use simple sentences. How can we know that our email is grammatically and contextually correct? Yes, so there are plugins which you can use in your Google Gmail Chrome. One which I use is Grammarly. It's a Chrome plugin. You can use it. It's a free version, and there is also a paid version. I am using actually a free version now. It's pretty good, so that so a lot of things which we overlook in grammar, they pick up, detect, and then tell you how to improve that. I mean, it will be shown as replacement. So once you write a sentence, it can help you to replace a particular word with another word so that it is grammatically and contextually correct, like as you just asked. So Grammarly is a good thing. Is used by millions of people. As you said, we have to be brief, but also compliment them. How can we both at the same time, right? Yeah. So when I say brief, a brevity about us, right? When I say brevity about what we want to say, and a little bit of consideration on their side. So, for example, if you want something from others, you have to say some nice things about others before you ask for it, right? So you asking can be brief, but saying nice things about them can be a little bit more elaborate, because the ultimate objective of the whole communication is to get that, right? When can you get that? Only when they feel better about it, right? So make them feel better and then clearly ask the question. Great. Great. Yeah, so the other question, I am an introvert in nature, so I feel a little bit shy while talking to others what to do. So, I mean, introverts make great professionals. I mean, there are a lot of introverts whom I know who are like amazing. They have the great work ethic, very professional and everything. So you don't have to worry that you're an introvert by nature. What it means is that you are not extremely going social, going out and meeting people and networking people whom you don't know and all. It only means that you are a little reserved in the way you communicate. But in terms of work and business, it's important that our limitations do not really affect it, right? So we have to work a little bit on what are the limitations we have, so that we become a better professional, right? But at the same time, being an introvert is absolutely no problem. There are so many great guys, CFOs, CEOs, sales, even sales directors I know who are introverts, but they're very, very, process oriented. They know what they're doing. So, yeah, is there any format which we can follow? No, there is no format which we can follow. There are only principles which we can follow, right? Because each context will have a different way of looking at things. How to not get affected by people, anchor and move on from that situation affecting us. Very important question. It's important to not feel personal about the whole event, right? Most of the time when something happens, when there is a conflict, we feel it is about us, right? We are feeling personal about it. We feel we are not good enough. We feel we are not efficient. We feel we are, we don't deserve it. I mean, it's a matter of self-esteem which is being instigated by the whole event, right? But what is most important is that the event is caused by many more other circumstances, not just because of about us, right? The event is a result of different circumstances coming together, so you don't have to take the responsibility of the event fully. But what you can do is to detach yourself from the event and look at the event rationally, not emotionally. That itself will change your perspective about how to respond to that. How can we talk with our employer on a call or chat? Always, it's always good to be stable rather than, in various tones. Always be stable, always be functional, always listen. Because most of the time what happens is when you listen, you get a lot of information. Sometimes you can pause in silence and still listen. Pause in a conversation is not at all a problem because the pause is just a matter of thinking, right? The conversation requires a little bit of thinking also, right? So you can pause, you can take 10-second silence and still get the right answer. Great. So, yeah, can you please repeat the basic things to be kept in mind? I'll repeat. One, clarity. Second is conciseness. Third is correctness. Fourth is coherence. Fifth is consideration, completeness, and courtesy. If you just keep this in mind, you will know how to communicate like a super rock star. Can you use shortcuts in email? I would recommend not to, because if you use shortcuts in emails, it means that you are not taking enough effort to write that email, right? So always use proper sentences. Am I on LinkedIn? Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. You can search for Krishna Kumar and Green Pepper, you'll find me. Yes. So Grammarly is one of the things which probably many of you might be using. It'll solve. It'll at least help you to alert some of the things which you probably would have overlooked. Great. Thank you so much. So many questions, and we can take some 5-6 minutes break before we go to the resume writing thing. Even on the resume writing thing, I want to make it a very Q&A kind of thing because it's very contextual. And resume writing is not just about resume, it's also about LinkedIn. So I'm going to cover both resume writing and LinkedIn, how to position yourself as a professional in your area, and and that can really help. So great, thank you. Great, thanks so much. I'm sorry that I'm not able to answer all the questions, or maybe, but these are interesting questions. If we get some time at the end, we can use that, I think, because anyway we have 30-minute Q&A. We will go through that. Very interesting questions. I'm really happy about it. We'll take a quick break and then come back for LinkedIn and resume writing. Is it okay?
Okay, sir. Fine, fine.
Thank you.
So, students, we will be taking a 10 minutes break.
Yeah.
It's 5:46. We'll be back by 5:56. Right, so
Super.
or by 6 maximum.
So yeah, yeah. Let's do that.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Sir?
Can we resume?
Yes, sir.
Great. I'll just take the presentation. Can we start?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. So, welcome back, everyone. It's the final episode, final module of the whole soft skills and employability program. Um, I think the interview process is already taken. So, we're going to be covering the resume writing and LinkedIn today. Especially, I want to share with you on why LinkedIn is important. LinkedIn is one of the world's largest professional networking platform. I'm sure that I'm already getting some, connection requests from some of you. I'll be accepting it soon. Once the program is over. A couple of things which we always have to keep in mind when it comes to resume writing and LinkedIn is that this is exactly the documents which actually you're going to share with the world about what you're doing and what you want to do, right? So it must be drafted well. It must have its structure. It must have a story, a summary, which is quite impressive. At the same time, it should be in a position to get you interviews. It should also help you to get interesting conversations open. It should also get you to meet new people. So the objective of LinkedIn and the resume writing is about telling about what you've done so far and what you want to do in an interesting way, right? And imagine, see, being in the hiring industry, I've worked worked in hiring for almost 14 years, even now with various clients. And what I've understood is in the whole process of hiring, people only take 30 seconds to read a resume, even if they're serious about it. So even if a serious recruiter is going to spend only 30 seconds in the resume or for that matter in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is much bigger because you keep meeting new people, and the time spent on your LinkedIn profile is at least 50 times more than the time someone is going to spend on resumes. Resumes intend the intention of a resume is to get attention. Okay, so the intention of the resume is not to share everything about you. It's to get the attention of the recruiter so that the recruiter or the hiring manager or possibly whoever who is hiring, it could be a CFO or a finance manager, somebody seeing your profile should be in a position to relate to what you do in a matter of 30 seconds. Right? What you are, what you've been into, where you are, contact, your LinkedIn profile itself should be put in the resume. And then you're giving a picture, a one-page picture, right? It's always good to have a fresher resume as one pager because it makes sense. For the other person also because they know that you've worked hardly 1 or 2 years or possibly have not worked in any organization. Keep it very simple, like a one pager. I'll show you a couple of samples and then we can discuss on that and how to position you as a person who is seeking open, enthusiastic about the role, right? So there are many things, there are many dynamics in the whole process of hiring. For example, if you're going to be preparing this resume and going to upload it in, say for example, portals like Naukri.com or Monster.com, what you're going to be seeing is that you again have to fill up many details in Naukri and Monster to fill up your employment, application. I mean, basically the whole form, right? And you know that your resume details will have to be copy pasted sometimes, to various application forms which the companies might have, right? It could be an application tracking system wherein you will have to again copy paste information because it's primarily for the ease of parsing. Parsing is basically the application tracking system's ability to find out resumes with specific skills from a large number of applications. Right? For example, if there are 100 resumes, how do you find that there is one cost accountant in that 100 resumes? It is not easy for a human, recruiter to go each, resume and find out who is a cost accountant. So what they would be using is a thing called parsing in the ATS, wherein they parsing will actually check your keywords, right? The keywords are the holy grail of any kind of recruiting. So what are the keywords which you should be using? It should be very, very clear. So first of all, your course is done, you call yourself as a CMA, or, and the institute is ICMAI. We call it cost accountant. That's the most popular name for what you're doing, cost and management accounting. You should use that cost accounting, in one keyword so that people, wanting to search for someone, or for example, somebody was done for budget forecasting, or somebody I mean, a budgetary control, or forecasting. So specifically, what your core area is, you should be able to mention it as keywords, right? So this is what the hiring application tracking systems really search for. And then from that, they pick one profile which will match the job descriptions they have already put out there. Right? So why I'm sharing this is the importance of keywords in your resume. Because most of your resumes are going to be read by algorithms, not by humans. So it should be algorithm friendly. It should be keyword centric. Resumes, which will help you to get more replies to whenever you apply for a large organization, because most of the large organizations will have something called their careers website, wherein you can fill up the form and upload. and sometimes you might be wondering, I've applied for many positions, many of the large companies, but there is not even a single reply. That's mainly because you do not have the keywords in your resume. So just to emphasize the importance of keyword in your resume, what are the keywords which possibly you can think about right now, which you can put in on the chat here? You can think about what are the three keywords which you will use for someone to find you. I mean, you can just put it now. I mean, we can refine it by the end of the session. What are the things which you can use, and then use those things more often than other, right? Even if it is for LinkedIn, or for the resume writing. Yeah, can you put it on the chat now? Three keywords which you can use possibly in your resume. It can vary, but mostly since you're from the same domain, it will be the same. I'm waiting here.
So they have posted.
Yeah,
They have posted.
great. So some of you, I'm writing, I'm reading it. Accountant, finance management, analyst, MIS and costing, cost and management accountant, CMA, finance, logistics. That is much better. CMA, finance and logistics. Costing, it is not enough. Cost and works accountant. Yeah, sounds okay. Corporate governance. I mean, it might sound really big, but then your recruiters might not understand which part of the corporate governance you are, right? Be it the management accounting. I mean, you can always. So there are two things. One is the keyword is not your aspiration. Keyword is not your ambition thing, right? It is about what you are. You can show your ambition. So, for example, if somebody wants to become a corporate governance professional, you can say you are aspiring. hiring to become a corporate governance professional, but you are a cost and management accountant, right? You're a CMA, cost and management accountant. That should be very clear. It's because aspirations are different, what actual credentials are different. So credentials are like what you've already have, and that's basically a proof of what you already have. Whereas aspirations are something which you can possibly do, potentially do, right? So there are two things. One is performance, which is already which you have achieved, potential, which is going to be achieved, right? So you have to clearly differentiate between credentials, which is like your educational qualifications, your professional qualifications, your projects you have done, the internships you want to take, and the companies you have worked with. All these are credentials, like which is which does exist, right? The other thing is the performance. Like in these credentials, you have to pick up your most high performing areas, right? For example, you can say in your college you were like top five. In your internship, you achieved so many things, right? You say help them to save money. You consolidated reports and created analytics insights, right? So these are performing things, right? So performance is one thing, and then the third thing is what you can, with your confidence, with your environment, with your attitude, what you can aspire to achieve, right? That's what you call as a potential. So resume essentially need to have these three things. One is credentials, what you already done, performance out of all the things which you've done, which were the highlights of your career, of your work, and of your schooling and college and everything. Highlights, right? And that should be quantified. Like highlights need to be quantified, which would be making the other person understand exactly what was the performing highlight, right? And then the aspirational thing, right? The potential. So great, management accounting, costing, auditing. Is interesting. SAP FICO, yes, it can add because combined with your professional qualification, you can also add some of the technology qualifications, which is going to really help. Cost control, yes, cost and management analyst, finance and management, supply chain, logistics analyst. So I'm getting strategic business management. That's a very different way of looking at the whole thing, but you need to be very clear about credentials, performing highlights, and potential. Okay, great. So all right, so there is one question. I'm hearing it for the first time about LinkedIn. Can you please tell about being a student? How can we get into it? I understand that. LinkedIn is the professional networking site. Was one of the world's largest, with almost 500 million people in LinkedIn as of now, and in India also, almost 26% of the professionals use LinkedIn for connecting with each other, creating content. Um, Use LinkedIn link, the profile link, as a way of sending resumes to people. So I've seen so many candidates sending only LinkedIn link because you don't have to send a resume or document PDF or anything, because the problem with the resume is that resumes are boring, first of all, because you're talking about another person and the document of another person, and we go through that and find out what is interesting in the person, and then schedule a call appointment with them. But LinkedIn is interesting because LinkedIn is resume in action, because you can see where all he was, and the headline, the summary of the person, who all they are connected with. The biggest advantage of LinkedIn is the social proof which it can give you, right? For example, you're connected with 300 professionals in LinkedIn. That means that this person has taken effort to connect with 300 professionals, and your recruiter will try to, look at your LinkedIn profile and then identify whether this person has got some connection with the person whom they know, right? Which will help a social kind of connection, which is definitely going to help in the whole process of the conversations and hiring. So I would always recommend you to prepare a proper profile on LinkedIn. I've already received some requests, connection requests. I'm just going through that. Some of you have done some good profiles um, in terms of the open to work and all those things. Even in the profile picture, you can put something like open to work, saying that cost and management accountant. Then you can put a slash and say that what are you looking at, right? And then the whole chronology. So chronology is very important. Why? Because the employers are keen to know, like, where have you been, in the last 2-3 years? Have you been working somewhere? Whether there was an internship, whether some projects were done in between, whether you have done some online courses in between. Somebody was mentioning SAP FICO. So people like that. So people look at chronological qualifications. They know by chronology, they also understand in what age group you belong to, everything, right? So that's the whole idea of LinkedIn. We'll come to LinkedIn again in some questions. Great. So pretty much it is like budgetary controller, management analyst, finance enthusiast. So, I mean, I think you are beyond enthusiasm, right? Because you're doing this because it's not because of enthusiasm. You are trying to build expertise in it. You're building skills into it, right? So you can use a bit more better words. Cost management accounting is pretty simple and straightforward. Financial risk analyst, it's pretty cool. Financial consultant. The problem with financial consultant is that a lot of people are using this term financial consultant. Even if you're a financial advisor of an insurance company, people use this word. So always be better, use an expert word term, a professional qualified term, than a salesman term, right? Somebody asking, I am in LinkedIn but don't know how to use it. We'll come to that. How to build a network on LinkedIn. First of all, LinkedIn itself will recommend you connections which will be useful for you based on the kind of profile you have built. For example, if you have put cost and management accountants of India, all the ICMI alumni will come to you, right? For example, most of your recruiting is going to be done by ICMI as alumni itself, like who are in different places across different industries. And they would have put in their LinkedIn that they are from ICMAI, and that will help you to, the LinkedIn's algorithm works in such a way that helps you to connect with those people, people with experience, like, who are working as senior managers or, AGMs or CFOs. So that's how the LinkedIn really helps you to get closer to the people whom you really want to meet up with, right? So using the right keywords, using the proper educational thing. For example, when you put ICMI, you should properly put the page of ICMI, mention that, so that the algorithm really catches and suggests you recommendations of people whom you really want to connect with. And you have to proactively connect with people. You have to send requests. Nobody's going to sometimes send requests in the initial time. After you pick up some connections, people will start sending connections to you. And then also when you are in LinkedIn, you should also write comments on others' things, and so that people will see, and that's how the connections happen. Just like in Facebook. So if you are on Facebook, you would know how you build the network of people, right? So LinkedIn works the same way. If you're in Facebook, you know that in a particular location, Facebook sends more of friendship suggestions to you, and you pick up those people whom you know from a particular location, or somebody who liked something similar to what you've liked and everything, right? Yeah, so it's just like Facebook. If you are on Facebook or Instagram, you would know how to build the network. You can use the same approach. Language, SQL, Python, HTML, etc., can be considered keywords as well. Absolutely, Purbashi. It's a combination of finance and technology is going to really make a difference, because that also shows that you've taken efforts to learn new technologies, which is a big add-on. Another question: how could we frame these keywords in our LinkedIn profile as a headline or as a summary? Great question. First of all, you can say that with the keywords you put together, make sure that the LinkedIn headline is like, you can say cost and management accounting student, right? So as of now, you're a student, so you can always say cost and management accounting student. Once you qualify, you can say cost and management accounting professional, right? And then bracket CMA, right? I don't know how you put it, CMA or ICMA. I think CMA, right? So that will, or qualified CMA, right? So that is one way of looking at it. So if you look at, and also look at how other people are doing it. So most of the learning happens in LinkedIn when we see that the other smart people, use certain words which actually get them a lot of attention. For example, you go to CA students, chartered accountant students, like you will find them, they say CA in first attempt. That means it shows that he's a good student, right? So such kind of subtle information can also help to position you as a professional, right? So, yeah. I do have a LinkedIn account with 100,000 followers. Akansha is a good thing. Additionally, quite active on it, establishing professional and healthy relationships. Fantastic. So, yes, we have example here itself. I mean, I want to appreciate and acknowledge that Akansha has done this. You can also follow her LinkedIn and find out what she's doing. So, like I said, like it's always good to watch people who are doing smartly and learn from them, so that there is a live example out there. It's a role model. So you can follow Akansha Shinde out there in LinkedIn and see how to use LinkedIn more smarter, more effectively. Interesting, interesting. There is a question. Can you help me on an internship? I can only tell you how to seek an internship. One, of course, is of course when you're part of LinkedIn, you can go to LinkedIn Jobs, and then there are so many internship opportunities out there open, and you can go through that, find out finance-related internships or possibly any kind of internships you're looking for at this point in time. Apply for that and get responses immediately. So the best way to use LinkedIn is to also apply for internships. You can also use platforms like Internshala, which gives you paid internships. That also would be good because there are a lot of companies in India who are looking for paid internships. That also would be helpful. Cost financial analyst CMA, good. So Richa Sharma, it's really good. Cost financial analyst, and then you can put CMA. Manoj says auditing and GST consultant. Interesting, because there are a lot of services which people would love to know specifically, because when you put GST consultant, that makes you quite visibly attractive for many small medium enterprises who are looking for GST related advice and troubleshooting. Great, interesting questions. Some more questions on internship from LinkedIn. I would request you to do this to have properly set up a LinkedIn profile, and then go to LinkedIn Jobs itself, because LinkedIn itself has got a tab which takes you to the job marketplace, and you can specifically search for location-based internships. If you're looking for internship in a particular location, or in a particular industry, or a particular domain, or paid or unpaid internships, or part-time or remote internships, all these are possible. It's a very interesting place to be in. Why I strongly recommend it is that once you start networking, then two things are there. One is it's a lot of market-related understanding you get on how to position yourself. Second, you will also see very smart people out there, and it's always good to learn from smart people, because I learned many things from people who are in the market, observing them, and so I mean that's a great opportunity out there. I've been using LinkedIn for 4 years. Many times people are viewing it in private mode. I just wanted to know what are the benefits I can avail. So Yeah, so LinkedIn has got a premium version. The reason why LinkedIn is not showing you all the people who are watching your profile, because LinkedIn has something called an access to premium access, wherein once you have the premium access, you can actually see the profiles. But I would say like that is not required. It's most important that we use LinkedIn as a free tool to network and to to message people, to understand, to like their comments, and that's how the connections happen, right? And when at a point in time when you really require a LinkedIn premium, you can go for that. So how to write, what to write as degree, as I am pursuing BCom honors. So you can always mention BCom honors there, because LinkedIn is offering. I mean, in fact, even in the resume you can do that. BCom honors is can be mentioned very clearly, because it's differentiated from the other Bachelor of Commerce, right? May I know what are the points should I keep in mind when I manage my LinkedIn account? Yes, we'll come to that. Yes, thank you. Great. So we've got almost 140 replies here. Um, Another question is, sir, could you post your name, LinkedIn name? Okay. So yeah, yeah. Right. In fact, I published it in the group. My LinkedIn link is published in the group so that you can follow me, and then you can connect. Great. So the idea which I want to share with you today on the resume writing, and of course having a proper LinkedIn profile, is all about starting from your photograph. I mean, many people use interesting photographs. I mean, we can be unconventional, but I think in the initial stage of your career, because I put a very unconventional photo, but in the initial stage of the career, it would be good to have a proper picture, with a full light on your face, and a professional picture which would give you more professional image. you know um, at my stage, I can experiment with stuff, but it would be good for you to you know have a proper picture when it comes to a picture with the proper light on your face. That's what I mean to say. It needn't be a great picture, but it should be a picture with the proper light on your face. And the second thing on the resume is, of course, we need to have your address properly written with your email ID and mobile number. And that mobile number should be with you, because any number, any mobile number which you put on your resume should be an active number, should be a number which you're using, should be a number which you should be able to pick up, because unless we pick up the phone, we are not open to opportunities. So I'll tell you a statistic. So out of the resumes, the phone numbers which are put in the resumes, only 36% of the phone numbers are being picked up by the candidate. Imagine, so much of opportunities are lost just because the candidates are not picking up the phone from the recruiter. So it's a big thing, because when it comes to a resume, make sure that you are putting the right email ID there. Don't put email IDs like QTPie, 2000, this thing and all. It is crazy. You should put a proper name and email ID, and also put your phone number correctly, so that also you can mention that if it is in WhatsApp, you can say WhatsApp also. So make it very clear, helpful and accessible for anyone trying to reach you, because ultimately opportunities come to people who are open to it, right? Who are helpful to others, to put their contact details out there and ask you to call. Make sure that you call, even if you're attending the call, you should be pretty happy to attend, and enthusiastically respond and ask and help them. I mean, a skeptical voice and tone and all those things are really turn off for a recruiter. But at the same time, you should ask a lot of questions, interesting questions. It's not that you shouldn't be asking questions. You should be asking interesting questions at any point in time. making that conversation livelier, right? So how to write a summary, right? Let me show you something now. Can you see something now? One second. Give me 1 second. Okay. I hope you can see something now. Yes,
Yes, sir. Visible.
visible, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. So here what we're talking about is, I'll share why is it important to have a clean resume like this with the phone and everything. So if you look at this profile, it shows very emphatically the name of the person. It's just CPA. So in your case, it would be like a CMA. We can say cost and management accountant, which is pretty much clear and emphatic. Phone number, email ID. You can also mention the LinkedIn link, because once you mention the LinkedIn link, then the people can actually click on that link and then directly connect with you on LinkedIn, which will improve your chances, right? And then you show a summary. The summary is like result-oriented CMA. I mean, of course, this is a guy with 5 years experience, but I want to share this with you because this will help you to understand skilled in all areas of finance and accounting, from individuals to large businesses. So see how he has positioned himself right now. Now reduce spending by $100,000 each in 5 small businesses, seeking to leverage top corporate finance experience and individual finance planning to become the certified public accountant in Alta Street Capital. So why are we showing this specifically here? Is it gives you an understanding about sorry gives you an understanding about how to present yourself really well. One is, of course, you mentioned here, the name. Look at the font. It's not an ordinary font which we use here. I mean, you can use either fonts like Latvia, or Inter. Inter is a good font, INTER, which is there in the Google thing. So, and then he talks about his experience specifically as a CPA, and clearly. So you look at the verbs here: organized, planned, advised, balanced. So these are action verbs which he's using here. And then chronologically, he has also put in a couple of companies he has worked with, and then from which to which company he has worked with. And then he also mentioned the education, which is pretty clear, and also highlighting and boldening the qualifications out here. And then of course the skills, right? In skills itself, if you put CMA, what are the core skills, the 4 skills you want to highlight, right? He says, financial planning and analysis, tax preparation and audit defense. So prepare 4 such skills which can actually help you to highlight your resume. So this is 1 page. I mean, this is hardly 1 or 2 pages. 1 page is actually, this is a 1 page resume. 1 page resume which gives you, focus, and the recruiter would love it because they would like to see, okay, this guy's contact details are there. He's a CMA, he's a CPA. He has clearly put what is the value he has added in his businesses, in his company, and which area of he's working with, chronology, education qualification with years and skills. Exactly the same thing which we would like to understand from a candidate. And rest of the details can be put here. So for example, he has mentioned LinkedIn also, because that makes it very clear for us to go back and click on the LinkedIn profile and then go and talk to him, or network with him. So any specific questions based on this? Kushi is asking, can I use college official email ID? Yeah, but the problem with college official email ID is once you're out of the college, then the college email ID is no longer active. And perhaps your resume would have reached somewhere, and if it cannot be updated at that point in time, it becomes a problem. So always use a Gmail ID, and a proper Gmail ID. If somebody's asking, how can you practically show how to make a good profile on LinkedIn? I wish I could do so, but this session is not meant for that. This session is only to tell you why and how to position yourself on a resume, and LinkedIn is important. Yeah. What if I have a gap year? Is it going to be a patch on resume? How to use it to take advantage? So many people have gap years. They would have not done anything at that point in time, but you can always kind of mention something like a project which you've been doing, or an online course which you have been attending, which would help you to put that gap year into productive use, right? So gap years are, I mean, in my opinion, is a very productive thing, because you get to know what you want to do. You can do a lot of things which you probably would not be able to do in other years. So use that as a strength, because you can always mention that I use the gap year to brush up my basics and skills, or sometimes to do an online course, or to work with someone, on a creative project or anything. So definitely it's possible. Can we do any internships after completing graduation, in between time we get a job or the time we are pursuing professional qualifications? Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a bit off topic, but I would tell you definitely internships are the way to go. The more internships you do, it's going to, open your eyes and, help you to look at problems in a different perspective, because each organization, each team will offer you some very unique, very valuable perspectives which can actually help. So never ever lose an opportunity to do internships. Sometimes internships are not paid, but don't look at it. It's like you're getting the value out of it. Enjoy that value, and if it is getting paid, it's very good enough. But I would say it's a more of a learning experience than an earning experience. So learning, should be the priority there. As a student, when I use LinkedIn, what should I write in specialization? So LinkedIn is offering so many number of specific skills which you can add on to, even if you know MS Excel pretty well, right? So for example, I'll tell you, The skill set which you would require to become a cost management accountant, MS Excel is the top one, because if you master the Excel, you can master anything. I mean, when it comes to mastering Excel, all financial analysts, accountants, and all those people whom I know who are successful have mastered Excel, right? Even if you use 20% of what Excel can do, is going to do a lot of things. So MS Excel is an important skill. If you know Tableau, software like Tableau, or for that matter, Tally and all those things. These are two different things. But then again, if you know those tools, that would be helpful. Power BI is also a great tool for data visualization. So LinkedIn is giving you a lot of options for you to add on to your skills, special skills. Yeah. So yeah, the one question, main difference between the resume model which we have known from our starting for graduation, which consists of 2 to 3 pages. Yes. So, the idea of a resume is to get attention and to get the call from the recruiter. That's it. Nothing more than that, right? Because, and then the resume will be used as a reference thing. So, I mean, don't put too much of information out there on the resume. Whenever they ask for a reference, you can give that reference. You don't have to put the reference in the resume itself, in advance. When they require it, they can probably ask, and you can give on email. So resume's purpose itself is to get the attention of the recruiter and the attention of the hiring manager, and to get a call from them, right? And that's the purpose of the resume. And then for any further things would be on the interview, on the discussion, on how you explain things, right? So don't put everything in the resume and feel that they would be, having every information about us, right? Printed copy resume can mention the links, yes, because if you look at LinkedIn links, you will see the name clearly. So when they search in the LinkedIn, it will be easier for them to search. Yeah. Qualification as CMA, great. So this is a particular profile which I want to share with you. Now I want to go and find out what exactly is the anatomy of a resume, right? What exactly is the thing? So one is, of course, industry terms. Why industry terms? Because 45% of your profile should have industry terms, for example, which will be relatable to your hiring manager, to make you to understand that you qualify for the criteria of the job description. Because every company will come up with a job description for a particular profile, and they're trying to match that job description with hundreds and hundreds of resumes, right? So when they have put all the industry terms in those job descriptions, that words should match. So I would also request you to go and read those job descriptions. In LinkedIn, there is an opportunity wherein in the profile, in the marketplace, in the job marketplace, you can see the job descriptions of each job role. And you can pick up those words and use in your LinkedIn profile also. So you know, like, what kind of companies are looking for, what kind of keyword, what kind of job descriptions, and matching those keywords in the job descriptions with your profile. So reading a lot. So this whole process of resume writing is a continuous process. It's not a process wherein you do the resume once and that's done for all, right? Imagine you do a resume today. I'm sure you will be having something to add in the next 1 month. There'll be something to add in the next 2 months, something to be completely redesigned in 6 months, right? So resume writing process is a continuously evolving process. It's always work in progress, right? Because we are work in progress, right? We are doing many new things. So we would like to add that. And we would like to add the perspective to it, which will make our possibility of getting calls from the recruiters better. So industry terms use, like you have mentioned so many industry terms today, you can also read better industry terms from job descriptions of companies, which will help you to find out the right kind of industry terms in your industry, which will help you to get calls. Common words, which are the common words? For example, advised, saved, planned, budgeted, forecasted, analyzed, those kind of terms, right? These are verbs. These are verbs which will help you to do that. Action, power words, right? And measurable results, like in the resume I shared with you here. He has already mentioned reduced spending by 1,100,000 each in 5 small businesses. So try to convert whatever you have done in a project or an internship into statements like this. Then you don't have to struggle to talk about what you've done, what is the value you've added, right? So sometimes the analytics report which you extracted, right, would have actually helped something to take a decision, right? So you can say that enabled to take a decision on an important part of the project because of this analytics report. So you can create value by sharing the story behind the value, and that is pretty much possible with verbs like this, right? Is it clear? I hope you're getting some idea about it. Official college Gmail ID in LinkedIn profile. Of college Gmail ID, I'm not sure. You should have your own Gmail ID. It's always good to have. Resumes can add photo. Yes, you can add photo if it is good, and if there is proper light on your face, then it is bright. You can always add. It should be a happy photo. Professional happy photo. Yeah. Great. Now, let me share with you like what exactly the header. Only include what's needed, like very specific header, then a 5-line elevator pitch, then you have to come out with 5 to 12 keywords, expertise keywords, and then who you are as a person, bright, charming, enthusiastic, optimistic, constant learner, and all those things, right? Which would help the other person to feel, better about you. Responsibilities and achievements, like what have you done in school, in college, in social projects, whatever you've done, like internships or initiatives you've taken, things you have written. If you've written blogs and stuff like that, it'd be useful. Now let's go to the next one. So here is a picture, like do and don't. Like don't put pictures like this. It might look good on Instagram, but not on LinkedIn. Right? Put pictures like this, which is very, very clear. Now, many people apply for all kinds of jobs with one resume. So if you are looking for a particular role in a company, then try and go and edit the profile a little bit more before you apply for the company, right? So customize your resume for each job. That will make a huge difference, right? Because one size does not fit all. So let's use specific keywords, customize it for specific job roles. And lead with your education skills. And if you don't have any professional experience, sometimes most of you may not have, 95% of people might not have professional experience, maybe in the group. What we can do is to use your leadership, which you have used in a college, your project skills, your event management skills, or your analytical skills, right? Critical thinking skills, right? Which you applied in various projects and team projects in your school or college, which can be mentioned as a brief liner to give the other person a feel about what you are, right? You can always show volunteering, because volunteering is beautiful because you can volunteer with any kind of groups. You're part of a community, and where you're contributing on certain aspects of the community. Use a proper resume format, right? I mean, I would always recommend you to use something called a platform called Canva, where I, will do a lot of my documentation, resume. I mean, there is a free thing actually. You can use Canva for making some beautiful resumes because um, Canva has got so many resume templates which will help you to just fit in your content out there and take a PDF out of it. That'll be fantastic. Yeah. Don'ts. What are the don'ts? Don't send a resume with the typos. Typos means spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes. Go and find out whether you missed out on something. Phone number should be correct. Go and zoom the number and see whether the number is correct. Email ID should be correct. Address should be correct. Nowadays, address is not required because most of it is going to be come to your email and phone number. But you can still put your address because sometimes it shows the credibility and you're applying properly. Don't use crazy fonts or colors. It should be proper black or slightly dark, black, dark gray or something. But make sure it is black because it's easy to take print out and it doesn't fade away. Don't go over one page because at this point in time you can summarize your best of achievements in one page and to make it interesting for the other person, right? Otherwise it's a drag, right? And yes, the final point, don't send a laundry list of everything, right? Make it highlights. So if there are 10 points you want to share those top 3 points with them. So if you've done 10 big volunteer projects, only short top 3 things and tell them that I've been a big person in that group, right? So yes, so these are the some of the ideas which I want to share with you. Yeah. There are more questions coming in. I'll read some of it. Can we also include the skills in our resume which doesn't match to the job description? Yes, so job descriptions are primarily companies trying to explain what they really want. But your resume is explaining what you really are. So you don't have to always match. But what you can do is to customize it if you're serious about that particular application. So resume is constant beta, constantly work in progress. So if somebody is not updating resume, that means he's not serious, right? If somebody is not updating LinkedIn, that means you're not serious. So always add on to new things, eliminate lesser things. Make sure it is very attractive. Should we put skills not relating to our domain in the resume? If those skills, photography, videography, animation, out of these 3 things, out of the animation and videography would be useful because photography is pretty common, right? So what we can do is to use, core skills, not generic skills, right? For example, if you're passionate about photography, you should be able to say, I have an Instagram page about photography, which I am managing. Or you can say that I have done photography projects for my college, right? So it should be very specific, which will make sure that it is not a passing casual interest, but it's a pretty strong interest. It's a very strong habit or what you call hobby you have. So whenever you try to say something, make sure that you're very strong in it, rather than it's a very casual. So sometimes even in interviews, people ask, photography. Photography, I do. I've done this project. I was completely responsible for the entire event, and I came up with this project. Right. So if it is clear, the strong, as a strong project, it is more compelling, right? Animation is pretty good. When people having disability, what should we do to apply job? Of course, the remote working is making everything possible. People who are slightly disadvantaged, physically, can even now get jobs. So I was recently involved with a couple of projects like that, wherein it was great to see that so many people are coming back to careers, who were otherwise would not have been possible, because we're all working from home, and it's a great time for them to come back. Yes, Canva. Canva is CANVA. Is amazing. You have to check it out. Fantastic resume templates out there, free. How to keep LinkedIn profile updated when you're a student and you're making LinkedIn profile for the very first time. So I would request you to first, LinkedIn itself is helping the profile builder at every stage to add on details, nudging you to put the right information, helping you to with quick helps. Whenever you are stuck, it will give you a quick help. So spend at least 1 or 2 hours in there. I mean, I can guarantee you something. It will be really helpful for you in the future. But it doesn't mean that you should spend a lot of time every day on it. It can be a little addictive also, just like any other social media. But once you build the platform, once you build the profile in the platform, spend like 20 minutes a day, you're going to find it useful. Parents' details are required to write? No, you don't have to write parents' detail either on resume or on LinkedIn. It's all independent individual profiles. Is it important to have certificate of every work we have done, like some social work and participant event we have done in school don't have certificate? No. Not all things need to have a visual proof. The proof is like you are mentioning that, and you should be in a position to explain what you've done. So always keep the storyline intact, because if they ask like what was the project about, you should be able to say that in a very convincing manner. So you don't need certificates or any such things. So earlier you used to see, in movies, the candidate will carry a big packet of certificates and will show the employer. Those days are over. It's all about how you explain and what you show. In LinkedIn, I see a lot of people, putting up their online courses certificates out there, which is good because it will get noticed. Can we add hobbies in the resume? Yes, you can add hobbies, provided it's not just generic hobbies. Don't say reading, writing, traveling, sleeping, and all. I mean, it's all. If you have traveled, then you should travel. You should mention that where all you have traveled to some crazy locations. It could be for trekking, or it should be for some community event. The travel should be interesting. Yeah. Resume should be written by hand or taken printout. It should be typed in a document and should be sent as a PDF. Printout is required only when you go there and if they ask you to do that. Great, so many questions, but most of the questions are kind of repeated questions. So I would say those things are already covered. For internships, which websites should we watch out for? Because sometimes the job openings are genuine. Yes, you're right. So I would recommend LinkedIn, because LinkedIn would verify, LinkedIn platform itself would verify the job descriptions before they publish it. So it's pretty much verified, and they are real openings. Internshala is also a highly verified platform which will help you to get paid internships. It's called Internshala, Pathshala kind of thing, Internshala. Fantastic. So I would say thank you so much. The quality of the questions, makes me really happy, because you really understood what I'm talking about. So I'm so happy. Each one of you can connect me on LinkedIn. Watch out, people in your own industry, ICMAI, alumni of senior finance managers, CFOs. Follow them, because a lot of people, interestingly, are putting out content out there. There will be a lot of learning for you. What is happening, relevant, contemporary experiences are very important. So that's it. Thank you so much. Is knowing a foreign language good for us accountants, French or Spanish? Yes, so one thing I've noticed is that Middle East is a huge market for your skills, and sometimes you may, um, work with companies who are French companies, and knowing French can be a huge advantage, especially culturally because you work with French colleagues, and you can, that because that can be learned in Duolingo. You can learn any language free in an app called Duolingo, Duolingo. It's a fantastic app. Thank you. Janvi.
Yes, sir. It was a wonderful thing that we got to know. Even I learned something new about the resume, which I didn't know. And thank you, sir, so much for this wonderful session.
Thank you
And
so much, guys. It's been, I think, I took almost 3 days, 6 hours. And I'm so glad that each one of you are so enthusiastic and coming up with some very relevant questions. And I didn't find any question to be not relevant. I mean, all the best for you. And this is pretty great opportunity at this point in time. Pandemic has made the world a different world. But having said that, I would say that we're all lucky to be here and working on opportunities which are like emerging. So keep your ears and eyes open. It's going to be fun. Thank you.
thank you so much, sir. And that was the end of the session. Now, the Cambridge session has come to an end. So, students, thank you so much for being so cooperative. Thank you so much, Krishna Kumar, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Janvi, for the support. Thank you, guys. See you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.